Hey folks, Matthew Weiss here, and I'm here on behalf of Produce Like a Pro. So Joe Carrell just put out a tutorial on this record here, Mackenzie Johnson, The Sisterhood, and I just want to listen to the mix and give it a reaction. I listened to it for about maybe 45 seconds already, so I kind of know what's coming, but this is going to be pretty much my off-the-cuff reaction without really any rehearsal. So let's take a listen.
Light a candle in the darkness, dance around under the harvest moon. Did you know that you can make things happen with just a little bit of magic? Let them think that you are unhinged. Let them take a stab and hunt a witch like you. It's unoriginal and old.
I almost don't want to stop it to interrupt it. I kind of just want to listen to it through, which is honestly that's the best sign of a good mix, when you just want to keep listening and you just want to shut up. Wow. Gosh, there's so many good things going on in this mix already. First of all, the lead vocal, it's beautifully sung. Mackenzie has an amazing voice here. I really like that there's a tallness to the voice. The low range is really well represented. You get into the deeper extension. And I think that when it comes to female vocals, a lot of people really miss how important that is, to really get into the deepest part of the lows of the voice and represent them well. I also like that it's not an overly bright vocal. I feel like it's moody. There's something kind of haunting about it. And if the vocal had been stretched out in the top too much, I think that would have gotten missed. And it's also a pretty pristine vocal. It's not so clean that it feels uncomfortable. There's definitely some kind of something that's bringing a little saturation in there, but it's a very broad and easy saturation. It doesn't feel very forced or anything like that. And it's just allowing her to sound like herself and sound really, really good. I like the reverb choice. The reverb is a very kind of clean plate-ish type of sound, like a digital plate kind of a sound. And I think that plays well with the pristineness of her voice. More than that, I really like what's going on with the guitars. Those wide imaged guitars can get really difficult to deal with because they can distract from the vocal. And now it sounds like there's kind of this sea of guitar playing, but at the same time, I'm not losing the notes. I'm not distracted from the vocal, all sorts of good stuff there. Even just the entrance, that kind of reverse breath noise that then has this reverb burst release to kind of bring the song right in, and then getting right into the action. I think that's also a really good choice. That's the producer and Joe coming together to make that intro work.
Fashion, leave it back in 1692. The craft, the blackest cat, the shadows cast the flight upon a room. It isn't white or black, there's more than that. I'll fight to tell the truth. It is.
Okay, so first of all, what a great choice for that shaker. That shaker could have been a mess because it's an inherently bright sound. So keeping it from being too bright, it's positioned perfectly to add that extra bit of drive, but without presenting this element that's overly bright for the record. All the brightness is really coming from the string of the guitar, and I love that. I think that's perfect. The other thing that I think is great is the background vocals. Joe, you a monster, dude. Background vocals are probably the third or fourth trickiest thing to get right in a mix. Not only is the tone of these background vocals amazing, but I love how they're being rode in kind of like a string section. That's really cool. That's clever. I haven't even seen the tutorial that you did, but I'm stealing that. Absolutely. Next mix, doesn't matter what the background vocals are doing, they're going to be doing that.
Wickedness, don't fall for this. I'll spell it out for you. Follow me to the woods. Welcome to the Sisterhood. I know you see me like I see you. A certain glimmer we can always recognize. Through the veil there's an ancient whisper. Listen closely, sister. It's dark and it's feminine.
Man, I cannot get over how perfect those vocals sound, because Mackenzie has a really, really nice bell tone. It's kind of the sort of tone harmonic that comes from up here. It's really, really nicely aligned with her fundamental and creates this very beautiful bell tone. And it's sitting exactly perfectly in proportion to the fundamentals of her voice. That's, man, that's so good. And then the background vocals are blended exactly 1 dB louder, too loud, 1 dB quieter, too quiet. They're perfect, and they blend so nicely. And then even like little choices with some of the effects. There's like this little hand drum that happened, or like a box percussion thing that happened during the chorus that has like really, really good transient definition, which is nice because everything in this mix is very smooth and soft and rounded. So just those little hints of something that's like very, like not sharp, like pain in the ear, but like really well defined in the transient, that just kind of add that ear candy is really nice. And not mushing that stuff with reverb is also really, really cool. Like there's a lot of really good reverb choices here. I love reverb, and like, you know, automating in the longer reverbs to like end the chorus, having the tighter reverbs on the vocal at time to help tell the story, and then like these like very quick cut off ambiances that are attached to some of these sound effects, one-time events, and percussions. All really, really, really well thought out and well done.
The heart is calling you to run barefoot upon tree roots illuminated by the midnight moon. The earth, the fire burns, the air it turns, the water into waves. We move in unison to the music within. Just set us.
Kick and bass balance is amazing. It's so smart to understand the music. This is probably one of the biggest mistakes I hear mixers who are still kind of getting used to mixing do. They'll kind of just decide that the kick needs to be in a certain place and the bass needs to be in a certain place, and that there's a technical look at it. But what's happening here is that the bass is actually driving the rhythm. It's a very round kind of like rubbery-ish, not rubbery in a bad way, but like spongy-ish kind of sound, very dark bass. And it's kind of acting the way a kick drum would act. And then the kick drum is really just supporting that, which creates, it adds to that roundness and that hauntingness, as opposed to like if you had a kick there that was just away at the low end, it would disrupt the vibe of the record. So even just that one choice is really, really nice.
Women like me and you, always misunderstood. Baby, that's the sisterhood.
Okay. The snare. I love the sound of the snare. Credit to the producer for that. I also love the way that Joe has the snare spread in the stereo image, right? Another common thing that we tend to do is put the snare right in the center. But because of the nature of this record, I actually think the snare works really well stretched across the imaging. That's a really, really cool choice that I think brings way more to the table than is really first immediately apparent. I also like that there's a reverb on there that feels very timed to the rhythm of the record. So it's kind of allowing you to breathe with the record off of the snare. Just from an artistic point of view, like there seems to be a lot of emphasis on this idea of breathing. Everywhere in the mix, there's this sensibility that everything is exhaling. And I think that, I don't know if that's a conscious decision or if it was like a subconscious decision. I think it was a conscious decision, personally. But it's really good. It makes the whole thing feel like it's all about breath, which I think is just super dope. And then that pitching transition thing, really cool too. Like the way it interacts with the reverb, the way that it creates this like sort of mysterious weird thing. It's almost a play on like a tape stop effect. It's like a nod to a mixer convention that's been overused. And then Joe just figured out like a really cool way to flip it a little bit and make it something totally unique.
Light as a feather, rising forevermore. Blessed be the freaks like me will reap the reward. Light as a feather, rising forevermore. Blessed be the freaks like me who see in the dark. The craft, the blackest cat, the shadows cast the flight upon a broom. They think it's white or black, and we cackle at the way that they assume that this is wickedness. Don't fall for this, I'll spell it out for you. Follow me to the woods, welcome to the sisterhood.
So cool. Oh my gosh, there's so many good things going on here. Going back to the reverb again, something that becomes apparent is when using that much reverb, it just becomes very easy to lose the record. Like you can easily overswamp a record. And one of the most challenging things in getting your ambience right is being able to get the ambience that you need, like especially on a record like this, create a very heavy ambience, but at the same time still allow everything to be very defined and clear. And that's like nailed. Super nailed. And then also not just choosing reverbs that are all pure, clean, clear kind of reverbs, but also some textured reverbs. We hear it decaying at the end here where there's this very it has a sound that's almost like when you overload a certain type of delay pedal, you'll get this kind of like 1K-ish windy tone. And there's some of that going on in the reverb decay right at the end. It sounds like wind. And there's this constant, again, it's like, even within the choice of the reverbs, there's that wind sound, that sound of air moving, that sound of exhaling. So, I mean, yeah, I love this mix. Right now, the tutorial's on sale. I'll probably buy it. I think I can probably bug Warren or Joe to get it for free, but I could also just pay $27 because that's really not a lot. And it comes with track outs. So, yeah, I mean, damn. I probably could continue saying more good things because it's like the soundstage is really big. The record's really tall. There's like a really nice kind of saturation across everything that's light, but kind of gives it that like subtle glowing quality to it. The balances are really perfect top to bottom. All the treble stuff is like very articulated, but doesn't feel stretched in the top end. Like, yeah, this is a phenomenal mix.